Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. One only remembers to turn on the light.
It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends.
The ones that love us never really leave us.
Working hard is important, but there's something that matters: believing in yourself. If they can do it, why not us?
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering the last tale of the Tales of Beedle the Bard, and that is the Tale of the Three Brothers. Mallory is with us today.
Hello.
And I'm excited to have you on for this last, and many would say best, tale of Beedle the Bard. But we have some shout-outs to get to before we get into the tale that everyone is clamoring for. And we have comments from Grant. So Grant left us a couple of comments. The first comment is from Chapter 2 and 3 of Sorcerer's Stone, The Vanishing Glass, and the Letters from No One. The rare time we did 2 chapters in one episode. That was crazy time. Crazy time early in our podcast. Grant says, first of all, I'm sorry for blowing up your inbox. Do not be sorry. Give us all the comments. I just love your podcast so much. Thank you very much, Grant. Total deep dive, but what if Petunia spoils Dudley the way she does, especially after Harry was dumped on her doorstep because she felt that she got overlooked as a child? What if it's her getting back at her sister Lily because she felt she wasn't loved as much, so she overcompensates with Dudley? And what if she married Vernon knowing how and who he is as a way of distancing herself from Lily's memory? Yeah, that is a deep dive into the psychology of Petunia, for sure. I think I can more firmly address the Vernon part of this is, yeah, I think so. I think she wanted specifically something to distance herself from the magical world, and Vernon is about as far as you can get from anything weird or odd or abnormal.
I think you hit the nail on the head with all of that. I think, yeah, and how she treats Dudley, too, is probably enforced by her upbringing.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool insight, Grant, as to why she might treat Dudley the way she does. And treat Harry the way she does. And I think you'd like to see her come over to the side of, hey, look, this is the last thing remaining from my family and from my sister. Like, maybe we should try to, bury the hatchet a little bit and just try to exist and coexist without as much animosity. Maybe, dare I say, an apology for the upbringing of Harry, but you never really get a full resolution to that. You get hints towards it, and then the movie, they do a really good job of the scene in Privet Drive with Harry and Petunia, except they cut it. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of untapped potential, I think, with Petunia, and we'll see if in the new HBO show they decide to go a little deeper with it. Obviously, in the trailer, you saw her, cutting his hair aggressively and saying, "You're not special. You'll never be special." So maybe they go a little deeper with it and really hit the feels a little bit more, which I would be all for.
Yeah.
Speaking of the HBO show, there's a comment from Grant on the HBO trailer reaction that we did, which has gotten a lot of feedback. So we're excited about the trailer and we're excited about the show. Grant says, I have so many thoughts on the trailer, enough to write an essay. And maybe I will, which I hope the teachers here can appreciate. The abbreviated version is that I'm excited for the series. I grew up with Harry Potter, and I like the thought of seeing it again with a new, more mature perspective on it. It's always different seeing things as an adult, but I would like to see the fresh take without the added nostalgia of seeing the actors we grew up with again and again. I couldn't agree more. I think doing this podcast as an adult, I've seen things in the Harry Potter story that I either did not pick up on at all as a kid, or I ignored, or I just, read past and didn't think twice about it. And I'm excited to see, hopefully, a more mature take on the world in this show. I get that the kids are still like 11 and 12, and they're still young kids, but there's a lot going on in this world, and some of it is very adult, very dark, very quick. And I think that's one thing I picked up on reading this again was, man, Sorcerer's Stone does have some darker parts. Chamber of Secrets gets real dark.
Yeah.
Like, crazy dark. And it's surprising, So it's interesting to see how the show depicts all of that.
Yeah, that is such a refreshing take too. Yeah, I am very excited about having it to be more geared towards an adult audience.
Thank you, Grant, for all of the comments and the insights and all of the questions. Never apologize for blowing up our inbox. We love the comments. We love the thoughts. We love hearing from all of our listeners. So if you have a comment, please feel free to leave one on any of our social medias. That's Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube. You can even leave a comment on Spotify or Apple if you're listening to us on Apple. All of our social medias are found at HogwartsAPod. We also have polls on Spotify that you can participate in. They're up for a very, very long time, so make sure to go back and participate in any that you've missed along the way. Also, while you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. That helps us. That helps grow the podcast. And we like to reach as many listeners as we can all over the world because that's really cool. So,
yeah. If you're a cool witch or wizard, leave us a 5-star review.
There you go. With that, we will now begin the tale of the three brothers. We might go through this a little bit quicker because we're all pretty familiar with the tale of the three brothers from its telling in Deathly Hallows, but we will get into it anyway. Here we go. Obviously, there are three brothers traveling along a road at twilight. They reached a river too deep and dangerous to cross. Learned in the magical arts as they were, they made a bridge appear to cross over this dangerous river. Halfway across, they encountered a hooded figure. Death spoke to them. Angry, he had been cheated out of 3 new victims. Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the travelers and said each had earned a prize for evading him.
This is the coolest story because I think it does have a lot of roots in like folklore, and there's a lot of stories all over the world about like death and life and all of that. So I think it's such a cool character to have Death greet them. I also think it's kind of cool that they just use their magic. So it already starts off very wizardy, very much in the Harry Potter world. Yeah, I like it.
I like that they create the bridge across the river. I also, small detail, but I love how they capitalize the D in death.
Yeah.
Like, they really make it like that proper noun, like this is an entity.
Yes, it's a cool character. Like, very, very cool.
Small detail, but I like it. We continue. And by the way, before we get too deep in this, I am not Emma Watson reading this, so I'm paraphrasing. So I'm not going to be as dramatic in my interpretation of this story, but hang with me anyway. The oldest brother, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence. A wand that always wins duels for its owner. So Death fashioned a wand from an elder tree. Before we go on to the second brother really quick. A wand that always wins duels for its owner. We've seen this wand pass through many, many hands. And we'll get to a little bit of that history later, but I think Death kind of cheated this one. So many of their owners have lost duels along the way. Grindelwald being maybe the most famous of which.
Okay. Maybe there's like rules in Death that we aren't seeing. Like we have to fill in the blank of like, there's like rules of what Death can create. I don't know. Either way, I think it's a really cool ask. The oldest brother, my opinion, the oldest brother's pretty smart for asking for a wand. I think that's a cool ask. Do I think he's a smart person? No, he's not. But I think he's...
Are we getting a hint as to which of these you would actually desire?
Oh, yeah. I would get the wands, but I wouldn't be that stupid. I wouldn't... I wouldn't, like, boast about... Sorry, we're getting ahead. Let's keep reading.
I may actually agree with you, but we will continue. The second brother was arrogant and wanted to humiliate Death, asking for the power to recall others from death. Death picked a stone from the river, telling the brother that this would have the power to bring back the dead. That's aggressive. Specifically wanting to humiliate Death.
Yeah, that's rude.
You're trying to humiliate what is essentially more or less a god, right? A god-like figure.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to humiliate that figure, you don't think that that godlike figure would be like, all right, how can I spin this to my ends? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's wild work to to want to humiliate a god like Death. Also, he's congratulating them. Why not be like, yes, thank you for this shiny rock. I appreciate it. Now I can bring back everyone from the dead or whatever. Thank you for this gift.
Yeah.
Why would you be like, I'm going to humiliate you?
It's an aggressive take from the second brother.
Yeah, I also think that's the least favorite Deathly Hallows for me. Feel like that's not something I would want. Nah.
It's unnatural.
Yeah, and I feel like it goes against a lot of like the magical rules that we've seen and just like the world building of like death and that theme. Like you don't bring back the dead.
The third and youngest brother was the humblest and wisest. He did not trust Death. He asked for something that would enable him to go forth without being followed by Death. Death, unwillingly, handed over his own cloak of invisibility. And then the three brothers continued on their way. So this third brother paragraph has two interesting notes to it, in my opinion. One, it starts off with, was the humblest and wisest. Okay, well, that's setting you up to think that this is whatever your opinions are on these three gifts. It's setting you up to think this is the right one.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other thing is that makes you think the same thing is Death unwillingly. They added in the word unwillingly gave this gift. So he openly gave the wand. He openly gave this stone. Here he's like, can't get out of this one. This stinks. This guy got me. I guess I'll give you this. And so, I mean, just the word choice in this third brother little paragraph here is just setting you on the path of like, go here. This is the path to choose. I mean, be humble, be wise. Don't look to humiliate someone. Like, they're just telling you in the opening intro of this story, basically, this is the path to go. Go here.
Yeah. I don't think he's the wisest, to be honest. Like, I don't think that's the wisest gift to get, but I do think that if we look at it as like a folkloric tale, then there are lessons to be learned, like warnings. A lot of like folklore is about like learning and safety, and like there were reasons why stories were told throughout history and from generation to generation. So if it's like a tale like that, like, yeah, it's like, don't be arrogant, don't be combative, but be humble. So I think that's a good like setup for all three brothers. Do I personally think he's the humblest and wisest? No, I don't want to hide under a cloak my entire life, but you know, as far as the story goes, yeah.
So now we get to the results of the gifts that they were given. The first brother traveled for about a week or more, reaching a distant village. He sought out a wizard with whom he had quarreled and killed him with his unbeatable wand. Again, we get the word unbeatable here. He boasted loudly at an inn about the wand that made him invincible. That night, another wizard crept upon the brother as he lay, stole the wand, and killed the brother. Death takes the first brother.
Oh, man.
I just love just the storytelling narrative that they finish this with Death takes the first brother. It's such just a cool little story note.
Yeah.
Like, just really just punctuate it. It's like an exclamation point without actually having an exclamation point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just such a cool way to wrap up that little story.
This is a very powerful story, for sure.
Yeah, so again, they say unbeatable wand, making the brother invincible. And then, obviously, he is the first one killed. Not in a duel. So this is a way maybe around that magic. He was killed as he lay asleep at night. So, this second individual, this other wizard, obviously hearing about all the boasting, clever enough to be like, okay, well, if this wand is invincible, if it is unbeatable, can't beat him in a duel, I'll figure another way to get this wand.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's the best gift from death, but I think it's the dumbest brother. Because if I had a wand that could defeat anyone, no one would know about it. Like, I wouldn't tell a soul. No one would know about it. I would use it for very mundane things, but I would have it in case I ever needed it.
So you're full Dumbledore approach.
I'm Dumbledore.
Bold.
No one's gonna know about this wand. It's just gonna be me making my, I'll do what Molly Weasley does, wash the dishes with it. And
best, most clean dishes ever.
Yeah. No, his mistake was he boasted about it.
Well, the second brother ended up journeying to his own home where he lived alone. He used the stone by turning it thrice in his hand, bringing back the figure of a girl he hoped to marry before her untimely death. She was sad, cold, and separated from him as if by a veil. She did not truly belong, and she suffered. Driven mad with hopeless longing, the brother killed himself to join her. Death takes the second brother. As dark as the first brother little mini story went, with him boasting about his victories and then being killed in the middle of the night, we take a big step up in kind of the darkness of this story. Bring back a lost loved one who's not supposed to be there and knows it, feels it, and agonizes over it. And that can't be a wonderful thing to witness, and it can't be a wonderful thing to live with. And then he takes his own life to join her. There's a lot going on with this second brother, I think. We are introduced to him by saying that he was an arrogant individual who wanted to humiliate, right? And now we get this individual living a lonely life, clearly haunted by the loss of someone that he cared deeply for, and never got to live the life that he wanted. And I think that's an interesting kind of dynamic as to who this person is. And I know I'm psychoanalyzing a character that we've had for 2 paragraphs.
No, I love it.
One might say the brother that we were punishing in the opening intro is just that way because he was robbed of something that he truly loved early in his life and could never figure out a way to kind of emotionally handle that. And now he's just lashing out.
Yeah.
Or trying to protect himself and hide his true actual emotions and feelings in that arrogant nature, in that humiliating type of banter, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take in psychoanalysis of
Thank
the
you.
second brother. Yeah, no, I appreciate that too, because it's the second one's a hard one to go through, because it is more of a sudden, the 3 brothers are 3 different types of death, right? We've got the death from violence, we've got the death from old age, and then the second brother is really the death of unresolved trauma. So that's a hard one to think about and talk about, but yeah, I think you painted a beautiful picture of him and kind of his motives for asking for that stone.
Obviously, we're deep into this now. We've gone through Deathly Hallows, and we know how Harry's story ends, and then I guess continues with Cursed Child. But generally, we know how his story ends, and how he used the stone when he got it. And yes, he brought back loved ones, but it was not for a prolonged period of time. Even then, we talked about, hey, I know these are Harry's loved ones, but they're speaking to him, almost luring him to his death.
Yeah.
They're almost coaxing him.
That's so dark.
It's super dark. But that's kind of, and you know the tale, and if you really dig into the tale, you can see that girl that he fell in love with or wanted to marry, who's not supposed to be there. And the longer this prolongs, I could only imagine her being like, hey, join me.
Yeah.
Come join me. we can't be together like this. Like, come to me. And then him eventually getting convinced to do so.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this whole thing is for Death to game the system, right? And this was the brother that decided to humiliate Death. So how can Death get him back in the worst way possible? Is literally the love of his life coming back to be like, no, you belong with me where I'm at. This is a cunning move by Death here. But this second brother is fascinating to me. I think he might be the most fascinating brother of the set.
Yeah. You have a really good take on that, yeah. Also, when you were explaining all of that, what if there was a Harry Potter horror movie, like, just on the three brothers? Like, how cool would that be? Speaking of dark, like, new adaptations of the novels, like...
I love everything about this type of story. Like, the telling of it in the movie was flawless. Like, how they showed the tale of the three brothers.
Yeah.
Beautiful. How they did it in the Hogwarts Legacy game with Death and the Hallows and all that. It was cool and it was unique and it was different. And I know I'm jumping way ahead, but the HBO show, when they get to the 7th season, hopefully, because there's still seasons of television that you have to renew. Hopefully it does well. Hopefully it gets there. I would love to see how they tell this in a darker, more realistic tone.
It would be kind of cool to see live actors
right?
playing it. Like,
wouldn't it be? Yeah, there's a lot here. Obviously, if we're just talking about the nature of the stone itself, I get the appeal. I understand the desire. I think most of us have someone in their lives that they've lost who they miss deeply. I think that's pretty safe to say. And they would love to bring them back just to talk to them, just to get advice, just to whatever.
Of course.
Words of comfort. I also get the dangers of this. So it's a really interesting gift from Death. And it's a really interesting story of the brother who maybe gets overlooked a little bit in this story. But
yeah.
Anyway, I digress. We move on to the third brother. Death searched for the third brother for many years, but never found him. When he obtained a great age, the brother took off the cloak of invisibility and gave it to his son. He then greeted Death as an old friend, going with him gladly as equals, departing this life. So, there is a lot there. Obviously, this is neat, clean, and easy for the third brother. Didn't have the trials and tribulations of his other two brothers. Yeah, I think the image we all get is literally this man was underneath an invisibility cloak for like 60 some odd years.
Yeah.
Or something, which I don't think is accurate. I think he just, any situation that might have put him in peril or danger or at risk in any way, then he went under the cloak and avoided that danger and that peril, and then he just lived a normal, regular life.
Okay.
I think is how it would work. Now that we've had the full three, I believe you're very clear on where you stand. You would want the wand,
yeah.
And you would want the stone least?
Yeah, the stone I don't really like because it is, like, unnatural, like you said. The invisibility cloak is cool. I don't like that he has to, like, hide from Death his whole life. Like, that kind of feels icky, but yeah, I would want the wand. How about you? What would you want?
So I actually agree with you. I think I would be able to have the wand and not flaunt it or boast about it, because that's just generally not my nature. Especially if I have something that I know is special, I want to kind of keep that to myself, or like my immediate loved ones. I don't want to be like spouting that like to all of the world.
Right.
And I would probably want the stone least, because that would be a temptation. All of these are a temptation, I think. And I think that's the deal with the wand, though, that you'd have to watch out for, is once you get a taste of being able to do pretty spectacular magic, the temptation is there to then keep doing spectacular magic, and eventually someone is going to realize, like, hey, that was really good. Hey, that was special. Can you do that for me? Can you do that for, my guy down the street? Can you do... And then all of a sudden, you didn't intend for it to spread, and then all of a sudden, you're getting attention because you're really good at magic with this one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Death is cunning, Death is wise. even if you're really, really good at evading him, he's always going to get you in the end, some way, somehow. I think the magic of the wand, from Death's point of view, is even if you think you're good enough, you're not, and I'll still get you in the end, which I think is the point of everything but the cloak. So, at least in terms of this story. However, that all being said, I agree with you. I would still pick the wand. Despite everything I just said about it, I still would probably pick it. But anyway, obviously the story very clearly points you to the cloak is the answer. This is how you should try to live your life. That's where we're at on this.
If you were Death in this story, what gift would you give a traveler? Like, what would be your magical item? You could just make one up.
That is a really good question. If we're talking Harry Potter specific, maybe something that's like, oh, I'll give you this special wand, and your charms are going to be the best in the world. But, and it would take something from your magical ability.
Okay.
Like I would counterbalance in a way, and I'd be like, okay, if you want this, I'll give you that. And then I just won't tell them what the side effects are.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, wow, that is tricky.
Because that's what he's doing here. He's like, okay, you want this? Cool. Yeah. I got you. And then not telling him the side effects of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would do something like, I don't know. That's tricky because, like, I do like that you're being tricky like Death. But I don't think I would be a mean Death. I would just be... I don't think I would give any tricks. I'd just be like, here's a rock. It would definitely be a rock. Not like the stone. It would be a rock, okay? Be a rock, and it would be like...
It's a cool rock.
It's a cool rock. It's the best rock. Very cool. Everyone wants this rock. And I think it would be, instead of like bringing someone back from the dead, I think it would be like, here's a rock that prevents death. So here's someone who's dying, you give them that rock, and then you give it to someone who's dying, and then the next person gives it to someone who's dying, and everyone's just alive for a little longer. And that would be me as Death.
Mallory, happy death.
Happy death.
Happy death. Well, with happy death, we will pause here, take a break, and we will get back in part 2, and we will talk about Dumbledore's take on this story. So sit tight and we'll be right back. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy and Cody and join them on the Outlap.
This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Whether you're packing for a vacation or dressing for a wedding, Nordstrom has head-to-toe looks for wherever summer takes you. From swimwear and bold color to romantic florals and dresses that make an entrance, find the right style for every unforgettable moment. Shop new arrivals from brands you love like Farm Rio, Free People, Vince, Wait, and Stod. Plus free shipping and returns and styling help whenever you need it make it all so easy. Shop now in stores at Nordstrom.com or download the Nordstrom app.
I love magic.
All right, so we are back with part 2 of this episode where we're discussing the tale of the 3 brothers. And now we get to Dumbledore's commentary. And Dumbledore starts his commentary by saying that this story made a profound impression on me as a boy. You think? Kind of a big deal in your history there, Dumbledore. Just a little bit. He originally heard this story first from his mother. And says that Aberforth's favorite story, his brother's favorite story, was Grumble the Grubby Goat, which not a tale in Tales of the Beedle Bard, at least this edition that we have. So it was another fairy tale that he used to be told, apparently, but Grumble the Grubby Goat. But anyway, Dumbledore continues on with, the moral of this story is that human efforts to overcome death are always doomed to disappoint. Thus, the third humblest and wisest brother knows to prolong another meeting with death by not engaging in violence or shadowy art of necromancy. Necromancy is an interesting word that Dumbledore uses here, and there's a footnote for it. Necromancy equals the dark art of raising the dead, and this branch of magic has never worked. So, while the stone mimics necromancy, it's not true necromancy, because the person doesn't actually come back. It's separated by that veil that we talked about. So that's an interesting note that Dumbledore gives. And as far as his moral of human efforts to overcome death are always doomed to disappoint is very similar to what we were talking about in part 1, where we're like, yeah, the wand sounds great, and we think we can master it, but ultimately death gets you. And in all 3 of these, it's kind of the same. Even the third brother dies eventually. It's just he prolonged his. But interesting way to start off Dumbledore's commentary with the moral of the story.
Yeah. I'm wondering, though, about necromancy. Now, what other, and maybe it's just my lack of information on this, but what other types of raising the dead or necromancy type magic is there in the wizarding world? There was those like creatures that came after Dumbledore when they were looking for the locket in the cave. Yeah, that
Inferi.
one. The Inferi. Is that kind of like necromancy?
Probably the closest that wizards have probably gotten, I would imagine, because now you're actually like animating a dead body. But while you're animating a dead body, you're not bringing that person back. Exactly.
Okay.
They're just kind of this mindless horde of flesh.
Okay,
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's not the same. What about, are there zombies in like...
Inferi would
or is
be
Inferi's
pretty
like,
close.
Okay.
Pretty close to a zombie.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to think about that. Are there any other types of magic?
Ghosts are a thing, which is interesting, which is also like, now you're bringing a personality and a memory of a person back, but they're not physically there either.
Yeah.
And then portraits have an imprint of a person on them, but they're also not exactly there either, and they're not the full person. It's just kind of like a part of a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, you know, most portraits are done relatively crudely, and it's only the really, really important people that get like a fuller picture of who they were into the portrait. So there's like examples of deceased individuals being part of a living world.
Okay.
But never fully. There's always a part of them or an aspect that's missing.
Okay. Okay. That makes
if that
sense.
Makes sense. I think that's the best way I could probably explain it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. So legend has grown that now contradicts the original moral of the story. So he gives us the moral of the story and is like, nope, I'm going to rip that away really quick. The legend is that the unbeatable wand, the stone that brings people back from death, and the invisibility cloak that endures forever actually exist in the real world. And furthermore, if one has all 3 of these items, they become master of death, meaning invulnerable, even immortal. And that's where we get all of the Xenophilius love goods of the world who are Hallow seekers, or Hallow admirers, if you will, which I think is really interesting. Obviously, we know that these Hallows do exist, which then throws a whole bunch of questions into the world. Then, does death as an actual entity exist?
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we'll continue. The kindest interpretation of human nature would be hope springs eternal. And there's a footnote here that says, hope springs eternal indicates that Dumbledore was well-read and familiar with Muggle poet Alexander Pope. What that indicates to me is that the author of all of these books is a fan and very familiar with Muggle poet Alexander Pope, is what that tells me. But fun fact instead. Beedle ends up telling us that 2 of the objects are dangerous and death comes for everyone. Instead, a tiny minority believe Beedle sent them a coded message.
Would you be like a conspiracy theorist like Xenophilius? Would you be like one to wear the Deathly Hallows symbol?
I wouldn't wear it.
You wouldn't wear it?
I wouldn't wear it. I know a lot of people have tattoos of the Deathly Hallows. I've seen many people tattooed with the symbol of the Deathly Hallows. Earrings are very popular.
Yes, it is a very cool, aesthetically pleasing design.
It is. That is true. That is true. I don't know if I were in world that I would... It's the same thing about the wand. Like, I don't think I would, like, flaunt it. I think if I were actually searching for them, I'd keep it very quiet.
Right.
You know? And Xenophilius, I don't think ever actually searched for these Hallows or pretended like he was going to be in possession of one. I think he was just an admirer of them.
Yeah.
An admirer of the story. And obviously, you know, his reputation with the Quibbler is like any fantastical story that may or may not exist. He's like, yeah, give me that.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you. I think I would be like, yeah, I admire this story. I admire this thought pattern that these actually really do exist. But I wouldn't wear it outright because I also wouldn't want to offend Victor Crumb.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. After the Grindelwald experience, the symbol of the Deathly Hallows became something darker.
Yeah, it was associated with Grindelwald and his reign of terror or whatever he was doing.
It was like a global political symbol almost.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other side to the Hallows, I guess.
Yeah.
The coded message idea is supported by little evidence. True that invisibility cloaks have existed, although they are rare. This cloak is particularly durable. Footnote to that, invisibility cloaks generally rip, grow opaque with age, or their charms just wear off. They can even be revealed by charms, so like a Revelio, or I think Hermione at some point does like a Hominum Revelio or something like that, where it's like, are there people here?
Yeah.
This would show you, even if you were under a manufactured invisibility cloak. And Dumbledore also notes that the most talented wizards revert to disillusionment charms, and he uses himself as an example of a wizard that's powerful enough to go completely invisible without the need of any kind of cloak.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Obviously, as we very well know, the invisibility cloak that Harry has is real durable, because it gets shot, it gets trampled on, it gets left in like mud. It is put to work, and it's still like brand new. And it's obviously very old because his father had it, and I'm sure his father put it through the paces too.
Yeah.
The cloak has never been claimed. So either because ignorance, no one actually knew what they had, or they followed their ancestors' wisdom and kept quiet about it. The stone has never been found either. Raising the dead can't happen. However, dark wizards have attempted in theory, which we've talked about, which are ghastly puppets, not reawakened humans. Beedle was clear that the second brother's love that was lost did not actually truly return. She was sent by death to lure the second brother into death's clutches, which then also goes back to our theory from Deathly Hallows about, yeah, he saw his parents and he saw Sirius and all that is great, but I think they were there for an alternative purpose, not the one that Harry might have actually intended.
Yeah.
They told him what he needed to hear to get to death.
Yeah.
But then he got a loophole out of death. He was in possession of all three at the time, so that's a loophole that death maybe didn't consider.
Yeah.
Do you think if death is a true entity, like a physical entity in this world, he's seeing his spirit visions, let's call them, greet this young boy on the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and he's just sitting there going, all right, gonna collect another one. I got this in the bag, right? Done, and... wait, what? How is he still alive? What just happened?
Maybe. Or does he even register that? Because, like, you know how many, like, bugs die and, like, all the creatures in the Forbidden Forest that have died of old age, all the people. Like, what if he's just so busy that he's like, okay, whatever.
There is the popular theory out there that when Harry goes to King's Cross, it is not actually Dumbledore that he's talking to. It's death.
Oh, that's a cool theory.
Yeah. So there is that theory out there.
Oh, I like this theory.
It would be very similar to the Tale of Three Brothers, where it's like, you're supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to present myself as a friend. And who's a friend to Harry is Dumbledore. So I'm going to present myself as a familiar, friendly entity. It's an interesting theory.
I like it. I've never heard of it. Thank you for that. Because now I'm like, wow, that's the best theory ever.
So there's some interesting stuff out there. But yeah, we get a little bit more confirmation that I think our theories were right in Deathly Hallows of like, are they calling him to death? I think they're calling him to death. So Dumbledore thinks so as well.
Yeah.
Footnote says that critics believe that Beedle had inspirations from the Philosopher's Stone, which makes the elixir of life. So the stone for life, now he's using the stone for death as kind of like a parallel of sorts, which is a cool footnote. Now, the wand does have historical evidence. Wizards have claimed to possess a more powerful wand either truthfully, to intimidate someone, or to just glorify themselves. Such wands have been nicknamed Wand of Destiny or Death Stick, which I mentioned earlier, and makes me think all the time of the scene in Star Wars where the guy's like, hey, you want to buy some Death Sticks? All the time. Anyway, old superstitions have grown around wands in general. So, for example, incompatibility. And the quote that goes along with incompatibility is, when his wand's oak and hers holly, then to marry would be folly. Good one. If it's character flaws you're talking about, Rowan gossips, Chestnut drones, Ash is stubborn, Hazel moans. That is a cool one. And then Elder wands have their own kind of stereotype to them. Wands of Elder never prosper. I can imagine Ollivander having a poster of all of these sayings just like at the front of his like shop, or he hates them.
I think he would hate them.
It's one or the other.
You know why? I think it reminds me of horoscopes, like, and zodiac signs.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's like Geminis and Scorpios aren't compatible. Neither is like Holly and Ash. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, so he probably hates them.
Or, and hear me out on this, does he outwardly say he hates them? And then every time he gets a Rowan wand, he's like, ooh, this person's a gossip.
Yeah.
Or like Ash wand is like, look, I'm trying to give you this wand. You're a little stubborn here. Oh, this makes sense. This is the wand for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
maybe he has it in the back of his head.
Like outwardly he hates it, but somewhere deep inside he's like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're...
I like playing with Ollivander a little bit. We so very rarely get him in anything.
That's really funny.
So, yeah, I like him as kind of playing matchmaker with wands, which he is. That's what he does. So, with Elder Wand specifically, it's not a wood favored by many wand makers due to the story of power-hungry wizards claiming Elder as wand wood. So they don't like the idea of contributing to stereotype or a legend where it's generally tied with violence. I think that's a really interesting thing that wand makers in general just try to stay away from Elder as a wood. But we do get the first well-documented mention of a powerful Elder Wand, which was owned by Emmerich the Evil. He was short-lived, but a very aggressive wizard who terrorized the south of England in the early Middle Ages. He ended up dying in a ferocious duel with Egbert. Egbert's fate is unknown, though presumably also killed in duel as was common in those times. So this is where I'm thinking, like, okay, we don't know the specifics of this duel, and we don't know the two combatants, really. But for the unbeatable, invincible wand, he died in a ferocious duel with Egbert. Not so unbeatable. And I'm wondering if this is something like Death being like, I'm going to give you this unbeatable wand with, like, one key flaw in it that's going to lose you a battle here or there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To end up bringing you back to me. Like, it's almost unbeatable.
Yeah.
Powerful,
maybe.
but not unbeatable.
Yeah.
1 century later, Godlet wrote a collection of dangerous spells, which was called Magic Most Evil, describing his wand as my most wicked and subtle friend with body of Elhorn, who knows ways of magic most evil. Elhorn is another older word for elder, so that's what Elhorn is. Godlet considers his wand almost an instructor of sorts. And Dumbledore does note that wands do absorb expertise of those who use them, though imperfect and unpredictable. This wand passing through many dark wizards could have a marked affinity for dangerous magic, which is fascinating. And further drives home the tidbits of information that Ollivander gives of, like, these wands have, like, a mind of their own. Like, they have a personality. The wand chooses the wizard. And furthers on the podcast, we've always talked about whether it's the magic of Hogwarts, like the magic of the castle, or just magic, period. Like, capital M magic is like its own character and its own entity.
Well, why not, if there's a death entity, why not a magic entity?
It has like a will of its own.
Yeah.
Like, it knows, ooh, this is swinging one way or the other, let's course correct, or let's find where we want to ally ourselves as just magic as itself. And I think you see that with the castle a lot, because the castle shifts and changes, and Dumbledore, who's been there forever, always says, like, look, I don't pretend to know every in and out of this castle, because it'll always surprise you with something. Like, there's always something new to learn about it, because it's always evolving and changing. And I think that's kind of what they're alluding to with wands, is like, it's magic, but it kind of has its own force about it, its own will, its own presence. So maybe we get capital D death in this, and maybe we get capital M magic in this as like its own thing.
That is so insightful.
I think it's a cool idea, is having like magic be its own.
That is.
Yeah.
No, truly.
Its own character.
Oh, and capital L love. Because Harry's always talking about love and his mother's love, and maybe that's another character too.
Forces far greater than either Dumbledore or Voldy.
Yes.
Most wizards prefer a wand that chooses them. Secondhand wands tend to have habits from previous owners which may not be compatible to the new owner. Which we do see from time to time, as Harry has to borrow some wands that he hadn't won himself, so it doesn't really work right. So that's an example. The practice of burying or burning wands with wizards' deaths prevents wands learning too many masters. Which makes me wonder, like, how much did Dumbledore mine that? And did he, like, delve into the wand? And did he learn from the wand? I wonder how much Dumbledore really experimented with this thing, is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago that I was on, we talked about like morally gray characters and how Snape is a morally gray character, and so is Dumbledore. Wands can also be neither good nor evil. So like, what if it's just like an accumulation and the wizard is the one who outputs that, whether it's good or bad? Mm-hmm. And it's not the wand that's necessarily becomes so evil and dark over time. Yeah,
it's almost like a tool, I guess. So Gaudelet ends up perishing in his own cellar, locked in by his mad son, Hereward. It's unclear what Hereward did with the wand after that. But the Eldrund wand ended up being owned by Barnabas Deverell, and that appeared in the late 18th century. Barnabas became a fearsome warlock, and his reign of terror ended by equally notorious Loxias, who then renamed it the Death Stick. So we're getting a violent history of this wand, kind of written out here by some very notorious warlocks and wizards. It's difficult to trace where the wand went after Loxias, as many claimed credit for his death, including his own mother. That's a vibe. And you wonder why that was. Was she trying to get the wand, or was she trying to put an end to his notorious reign of evil? Interesting.
I don't know, but skipping down a little bit, you said, footnote, no witch has ever claimed the wand.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Every man who has owned the wand claims it as unbeatable, despite it being beaten hundreds of times. But yeah, no witch has ever claimed it.
Interesting.
Are you claiming that as more evidence as to why you should have the Elder Wand?
No.
Clearly, okay, just because no witch has never claimed it, do you think witches have had it?
Maybe.
Or have they just never pursued it?
You know,
which one are you going for?
I don't know, but I think you're right. If I had the Elder Wand, my reign of terror would begin. So no, I have no clue, honestly. These are a lot of what ifs, but I just think it's interesting that no witch has ever claimed it. I don't know what that says about witches versus wizards.
I think what they are alluding to is that there is a difference in witches and wizards. I don't know if that's 100% true.
No, because you think about like Bellatrix, and she was a very
Exactly.
violent
Great
witch.
example.
Yeah, I just think that's interesting, though, for the Elder Wand and that history. But it might also be like all of these guys that own the wand seem kind of like, I'm imagining them like kind of medieval kings, and like maybe it was more like up in royal circles, and
They
it was
almost
kind of like
describe them as like either warlords, like a Genghis Khan or something like that, or like a serial killer, like an H.H. Holmes. Like that's how they're describing these, with like reign of terror and the most evil and like things like that. And it's like, oh man, what did they do to earn those titles is kind of what I want to know.
Yeah, so I'm almost wondering if it was like kind of locked down over the centuries.
I think this is the poll question from this episode of, do you think witches have had the Elder Wand at some point, the Death Stick, the Wand of Destiny, or do you think they've just never pursued it? I think that would be a pretty good poll for this episode.
Yeah, I can't see why people wouldn't pursue it. Like, clearly in the beginning of this episode, I said, I want it. I want it. So yeah, I think witches would want it. But
or do you think they're just shrewd like the third brother? Like they're shrewd and wise like third, but they want the ambition of the first.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's possible, but it's also possible for the opposite of that. Like someone like Bellatrix receiving the wand and using it, like some of these terrible people who have had it in the past. So
yeah, I think Bellatrix is a great example of a witch that would most certainly try to go get that if she could.
Yeah.
Observation from Dumbledore is that humans have a knack for choosing precisely those things that are worst for them. I think we can all agree to that. Who could refuse the power of the Wand of Destiny? Who could resist temptation of bringing back someone they loved? Even Dumbledore would easily refuse the invisibility cloak. Clever as I am, I remain just as big a fool as anyone else. And I think back to like some of the great quotes by great philosophers through the years. It's like, true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing.
Yeah.
Kind of wisdom. And I think that's what Dumbledore is alluding to here is like, look, I know a lot of stuff, but I know I don't know everything. And that's I make the same mistakes as anyone else.
That is so true. That's a great quote. What is it again?
True wisdom is knowing that you know nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and for Dumbledore working at a school, I mean, there have been talented witches and wizards come through there for decades as he's been there. And I'm sure one or two of them have done something that's made him go, wow, I didn't even know that was a thing, or I didn't know that was possible, or that was really special. Yeah. I'm sure that's happened through the years.
For sure.
And some of them have ended up on his staff. I'm sure McGonagall, has gone like, wow, that was really cool magic, or whatever.
Wow, you could be a cat. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm really jealous that you can become a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure Dumbledore, working in education, is also very well aware of like, look, I'm learning stuff all the time. And being around kids, I'm sure he's also realized like, as smart and as great as I am, there are days and there are moments where I could be just as foolish and just as dumb as a first year in his first month here.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. That's how we get better. And it's okay.
Yeah.
You just gotta recognize and acknowledge your mistakes and move forward.
Yeah. And you learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. So on that kind of positive, cool note, we will wrap it up here. If you have a comment or you have anything that you want to say about The Tale of the Three Brothers or Dumbledore's commentary or our commentary on Dumbledore's commentary on The Tale of the Three Brothers, let us know by giving us a comment on any of our social medias. Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. You can find all of our social medias at Hogwarts a Pod. You can leave a comment on Spotify. You can leave a comment on Apple. We will try to get to them as best we can and discuss, debate, analyze all of the stuff that you have to say about Harry Potter, because we love hearing from you, the listener. So let us know. Participate in those polls, because we love seeing those results as well. Give us a 5-star review. That always helps us spread the podcast. And we love seeing listens come in from all over the world. It's always a cool thing to see. With that, we will wrap it up here. Thank you for listening, and we will be back soon with Quidditch Through the Ages.
Wow.
Is coming up next, now that we're done with Tales of the Beedle the Bard. So get ready for some sports talk, everybody.
Sports. Go sports.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.